Hey guys, welcome once again to another explanation video, all right? So hopefully this is gonna help clear out any doubts that you might have about this topic that we saw. Remember just all the examples that we've been doing and all the activities, and I think that should guide you to not making that many mistakes. If you still have any doubts though, this is why we're making this video. Remember, you can also reach out to me and ask me any type of questions, and I will gladly answer them when I have time. I will try to answer fast though. All right, you guys already know that. Okay, so we begin. So our topic was perfect modals, right? So we have one question to answer. Then this is a very important question. I want you to think about this. What do you express with them, with perfect modals? Okay, remember all the activities that we did when we dropped our elote, when we failed the subject. What were the other sentences? The day we went back to school and nobody was talking to us. Remember all those scenarios that we did? Our gansito being eaten in the fridge, all those good scenarios. So what did we express in them? Okay, think about it and answer. Yeah, I think you guys got it. Speculation and regrets. Those were the two that we focused on. Okay, so again, we're gonna focus on these two. So make sure that you pay attention so you can, well, you can differentiate between the two and know how to form the sentences properly without making any mistakes. Okay. All right. So here we go. We're going to start off with speculation. Remember that we always have to clarify what speculation means sometimes, especially if we don't understand this word. It might be a big word, although it kind of sounds like the same word in Spanish, so we can kind of relate it like that. But if you still don't know or don't remember it's just making guesses. It's us guessing about something, and yeah, that's all that it is basically. All right. So with this in mind, we're going to jump into an example. Okay. I want you guys to imagine this. Imagine that there are four friends at a party. Okay. Let me use the laser pointer here. We have four friends at a party right there. We have three people that are eating, and then we have one girl that is sleeping. Okay. So for this example, we're going to focus on the girl. All right. Her name is Nezuko, by the way, just so you guys know. So imagine that they are at the same gathering and everybody's doing their own thing. She's sleeping, and then like 2 hours pass. And sorry about my dogs if you hear them in the background. They just started barking. So 2 hours pass, and after these 2 hours pass, we have only three people left. Where's the girl? What happened to her? Right? So this is going to be an example of how a normal conversation can be had with this particular grammar item. All right. So this is what we did in the classroom. Remember that. Okay. So we have these three individuals, and then suddenly one realizes, hey guys, what do you think happened to Nezuko? And then somebody is going to answer, she must have gone to bed. Well, she could have gone to get some food. No, we already have food. All right. I guess she could have gone to bed then. I told you, she was very sleepy, and you kept making chewing noises. And yeah, this is basically a conversation that you can have, or that you can see where we're applying our perfect modals. All right. So from this example, we're going to grab this sentence. Okay, this is our sentence. It is, she could have gone to bed. We're going to analyze it, break it down, and just separate the structure so you guys can use it. Okay, so here is our structure. You guys already have an idea, I know. Here it is. We have the subject, the modal, we have, verb, and then the complement, right? This might be too vague, so let's narrow this down a little bit. For modals, we're talking about four. You guys remember these four, right? We're talking about could, might, may, and must. These are the four options that we can use, okay? And for verbs, I'm sure you guys already found out. You guys already know what conjugation this is. We're talking about verbs in past participle, okay? So from this structure, we need to take out some very important things, okay? Just take them with you as like key knowledge. For example, we already mentioned the verbs. We have to remember past participles. And we say that again because you guys already saw present perfect and past perfect. So I'm sure you are already familiar with them. However, uh, you have to familiarize yourself with them again. So you don't make any mistakes. Because if you make a mistake with the verb and past participle, the whole sentence is going to be marked down as incorrect, especially if you're doing an exam. Okay, so be careful with that. And then the other thing we need to keep an eye out for is this, the modals. So depending on what we want to express is the modal that we're going to use. Okay. So we can't just grab we can't just grab any of them and use them in whatever situation. No, it has to be a specific situation. Okay. But do not worry. I'm going to explain how to apply them in a second. Okay. So first, just analyze the structure, make sure you have it down. This is for affirmatives only, all right? So if this is for affirmatives only, we have to ask ourselves, how do we make this negative? I'm sure you guys already found the answer to that. And you are correct. We only add one word right there, not. That is correct. We only add not right there. There it is. You can see the structure happening in front of your eyes. We added and now it is correct. Obviously, we're not going to use capitals, but it served its purpose just so you guys can see it a lot more. So she could not have gone to bed. Okay. So remember the placement of the not is right after the modal. Okay. And this is your structure for negatives. Make sure you have this one down too, just to facilitate you making your own examples. Okay. So we move on. We have to highlight a few things. Okay, this is very important. Some people might be wondering, teacher, while we're using the verb have, do we use has? Because you guys just came from seeing present perfect and you might be wondering, well, don't I usually say she has gone to Disneyland 6 times? She has hiked the mountains of the Everest. Or he has 3 dogs. That's why they're barking right now and making the presentation impossible. And yeah, you're going to be right. We do normally use has for third person singular, like you already know. However, we need to forget it. Okay, we do not use it when we're talking about perfect modals. It's not going to be used for our purposes, not in this structure. All right. So if we use have, we are doing the correct thing. We're going to see smiley faces in our assignments the whole time. And just to prove the fact that you do use have with all of them, you just make sentences with them so you can check. Check the pronunciation, check how it sounds. Does it sound like it goes together? She could have, I could have, you could have, we could have, they could have, it could have, he could have. Do they not sound right? Yes, they do. And that's because we use could have with all of them. All right. So we're going to use this one with all of the different pronouns. Doesn't matter. Okay. If we use has, that means we are incorrect. It doesn't even sound correct. She could has gone. No, it doesn't even sound correct. So if your ear tells you it's wrong, it's probably wrong. So listen to your gut. So remember, if you use has, in this structure, you're going to be making a mistake. You're going to be left crying when you see your exam results. So make sure that you do not use has, right? Very important that you remember this. There's also another important aspect and to consider. And this is we're talking about past participle, right? So it's very important for everybody to remember that when we mention past participles, we have to mention irregular verbs. And I know some of you might, well, not like the minority. I know only some of you, like the great minority, are only the people that struggle with irregular verbs. Everybody else, every other one of my students is a master at irregular verbs, right? So if you feel like you're struggling with irregular verbs, you might want to just grab a list of irregular verbs. I'm going to make sure I upload one for you on Blackboard so you can grab that one and just study them The only the only thing I can tell you to help you out with irregular verbs is study them. I mean, it might take somebody a week to learn, like, I don't know, a couple hundred, or it might take you 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on how much effort you put into it. But if you don't want to make any mistakes, especially when you speak, then I suggest that you start studying them if you don't already know it. Okay. And just remember, the main difference between irregular verbs and regular verbs is that for regular verbs, we add an ed at the end when we're talking about simple past and past participle. And for irregular verbs, the forms completely change, like you can see from this example. So that is why it's very, very important for you to understand these verbs and just memorize them. So when you want to use them, you know what form you're supposed to be using. Okay. Again, the majority of the verbs are regular, so you don't have to worry that much. However, we do have a lot of basic verbs, a lot of main activities that you do during your day, like sleeping, eating, running. We have a lot of them that have to do, I mean, they're irregular. So you might want to pay a lot of attention to those main verbs that you do during a day. Okay. So here we go. We continue. Here is where we're gonna get the main information that you need to be able to apply them correctly. Okay, this is gonna tell you when you use each one. Okay, so it's very important to note that we separate them into two main categories. The first one being if it did happen, and then the second one being if it didn't happen. All right, so we're basically separating them by affirmatives and negatives. And after we have those two main categories, we have three subcategories, and those are if we are very certain about something, if we are kind of certain, and if we're not very certain. Okay, so you guys might already remember the one that we used in our sentence from our previous activity. When we were very certain about something happening, we use must. So must have. Okay, something must have happened if I'm very certain about it. If I'm kind of certain, I'm going to use could have. Okay. And then for not very certain, we have two options. We have may have and might have. You can use either one in this stage. Okay. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't give you like a significant difference. And then for negatives, this is where you need to maybe pay a little bit more attention to, so you don't make that many mistakes. Here we have two options, okay? We have must nots and could nots. If we're very certain that something didn't happen, okay? And if we say could nots, we're not only saying that something or that we're very certain about something not happening, we're saying that it's basically impossible, okay? If I say my students couldn't have failed the exam, I know everybody studied for hours. They couldn't have failed. That's impossible. All right, just by listening to that example, you already know, and it does sound like I'm saying it's impossible without having to say impossible. All right, so we have to make the differentiation there that we use could for kind of certain in affirmative, but we use it for very certain in negative. Okay, then we reach an area where we have two left. We have may and might. Well, these two are going to share both subtopics. We use both of them when we're talking about kind of certain and not very certain. Okay. When do you use each one, or how do you know? Well, this all has to do with context. Depending on the context of the sentence, you're going to know if you're kind of certain or not very certain about something. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about the context of situations in a little bit. So hang tight so you can hear the explanation later. All right. So here we go. We continue. Now we come to regret. This is the other topic that we saw, the other form of expression, basically. So we have speculation, and this is regret. Just to remind everybody a little bit, we're going to do a situation. Imagine that somebody steals your friend, your best friend, not only friend, sorry, your best friend. So you might have somebody else, another friend possibly, come up to you and basically say something like this: you should have been a better friend. maybe then your best friend wouldn't have changed you for another friend. All right. So remember that we can express regret for ourselves, but we can also do it for other people. Like in this case, she's expressing regret for this person right there. Okay. Let's grab that sentence that we use there and break it down so we can analyze the structure a little bit. So we can see right here the structure. I'll give you a second to pause the video and check the sentence with the one you already have. Does it look like it's kind of the same, or are there any differences? All right. So that was long enough. Here you have the structure. You guys can see we're using the same verb and past participle. So basically, yes, it is the same. You guys got it right. The only difference, like I'm sure you guys noticed, should is a modal. Yes, it is. But in this structure, we're only going to use should. Okay, we're not going to use any other modals. So this structure is the same, only it is limited to using should. All right. How do we make this sentence negative? Because this is affirmative. I'll give you 1 second to think about it and answer. There you go. That's been 1 second. You're 100% right. We add not. Just by adding this not, you make it negative. Where do you add it? In the same place. Okay. Remember, it's the same structure. So you add it in the same place, right after the modal, right after should. Okay. So we move on. Let's see it being used in another example. All right. This is something you might find like in an exam, where I give you a scenario and you have to think of a sentence that you can make. For example, imagine your friend failed English, right? And you have him right there. He's in the middle. He's moping. He's very sad because his parents are mad at him because he failed the exam. So let's say you come over and you say something like, you should have studied more, buddy. And then one of your other friends says, I'm sure you can still pass the semestral exam, right? So this is, like we said, like normal conversation. You guys can notice that this is something that you do use both in English and in Spanish. Uh, more in Spanish for you guys because you speak more Spanish than English, but we would use it with the same frequency. Like this does come up quite frequently depending on the scenario. All right. And we arrive to the last slide of explanations. Okay, this is just to remember to contract. So I'm going to be very quick about this. You guys already saw this topic, and it doesn't have that much going on for it other than just memorizing things. Okay, so here we go. So we have could have, might have, may have, must have, and should have. Okay, this is when we're talking about affirmatives. If we want to contract them, we're going to have could have. Check the pronunciation now. I am going to help you out with that. We're pronouncing could normally, could. Always remember, we do not pronounce the L, okay? The L does not make a sound in any of the modals, not in could, not in would, not in should. We're not using would for this one, but it is a modal there somewhere. So we do not pronounce the L, all right? Just remember that. We say could, and then how do we pronounce this VE? Well, it's very simple. We just say of, could have, could of, could of. And you just say it fast so it blends in. Could have. I could have. I could have gone to your party. All right, let's practice with might. Might of, might of, might have. It's the same exact thing, okay? You just pronounce might and then you say of, might have. But just say it fast so it sounds more natural, like you know what you're doing. All right, so we have may have, and that's may have. We have must have, and then we have should have, okay? So these are the pronunciations, there they are. Some of them are not that frequently used, like may have and might have, but they do exist. Like I make that that clarification, so if you go to like dictionary or something and you find them, like you know I did mention them. But yeah, some of them are not that common. Okay, So we have in negatives could plus not, might plus not, may not, must not, and should not. Again, this is for negatives. So for negatives, we can see that we do not contract the modal and have. We contract the modal and not. Okay? So here we have some examples. Could not becomes couldn't. Remember that the NT makes that exact sound. Nt, couldn't, couldn't. Okay? And then we have might not. Remember that I made this clarification in the class. Might and may. Both of these do have a contracted version. However, it is not that frequent. It's not that common, especially when speaking, at least not in our parts of the world here. So I'm going to say do not use the contracted versions. But just so you know, just for general information, they do exist, but do not use them. And then we have must not, mustn't, must, and mustn't. And then we have should not, shouldn't, shouldn't. All right. So that's it basically. Try to use the contracted versions since it's a lot more frequently uh, used than the non-contracted versions. But if you struggle with them, just stick to the non-contracted versions and you're going to be fine. All right. Okay, so we reached the end. Here's where you had a chance to ask me any questions. In this case, since the class is not live, if you have any questions still, ask me when we see each other again in our classes, or ask me through our messenger group, WhatsApp group, depending on what we have. But make sure that you do ask me, okay? Do not have any doubts. The topic is not complicated at all. So if you still struggle with something, I can help you out. I can help you out in Spanish too, if that would be better. And the only thing that we did have here was the final explanation about context. So I will briefly do it. However, I'm not going to write it on the screen since I don't want to have to use the pencil here. It's going to take way too long. But let's just use my voice. Hopefully that can that can help you out. So we have the first example. Mario has been watching that movie all day. And then the follow-up sentence would have to do with Mario and like him liking the movie very much. How certain are we that Mario likes the movie? Are we very certain? Are we kind of certain? Or are we not very certain? I'll pause so you can think. You are correct. We are very certain. How do we know that? Because we say Mario has been watching that movie all day. Who would watch a movie all day long and not like it, right? If you're watching a movie all day, it's because you like it. So we can safely say he must have liked it very much. He must have liked it very much. Okay? So that would be the sentence here. So that is what we were talking about, context. We have 4 different modals that we can use here for the structure, but by reading the first sentence and understanding the context of it, we can determine which one we're going to use. Okay, so just keep an eye out for everything context related, especially in this topic. I do want to make the side notes that well, I can already mention this in the class, but however, I think it is very important since we dealt with it in our last topic, which was relative clauses. Remember that depending on the person, on their personal situation, and on their own context, things might vary from person to person. For example, maybe for me, something is very, like I'm very certain about something, I'm very sure. But maybe for another person, they're kind of certain, or they might not even be very certain at all. So keep that in mind always. Take it with a grain of salt. Everything is different to each person. Okay, so just remember that. So when we're doing the exam, and you might find some examples like this, just remember that the key thing is for you not to make a mistake on not so much on the context, because like I mentioned, that can vary, but it would be on the structure itself. Okay, so as long as you're nailing the structure itself, we're good to go. We're in business. All right. And I just want to wrap it up. Hopefully, by this time, everybody is a master at this topic. It is not that complicated. As long as you guys are willing to give it, uh, well, your best shot, specifically with the irregular verbs and past participles. Because if you struggle with that, you are gonna have a hard time. Okay. So, yeah, this is for for my students. You guys have to make a mind map and their concept map. So I do want to thank you for paying attention, and I will see you later. Just keep practicing. Again, practicing is key. If at the end of each topic, I want everybody to make like self-reflect on these questions. Do you know what we express with the topic? Do you know the structure for the topic? And can you make examples for the topic? If the answer is no to any of them, then you need either to watch it again or practice more with the explanation or with the PowerPoints. Then, like, if you can't do any of these and understand it, the next best thing, if not the best thing, would be to contact me in my tutoring session or in the classroom or via message so I can help you out. And like I said, it can be in Spanish too. So maybe maybe that's the problem that I'm explaining in English, and you might need an explanation in Spanish. But I guarantee you, this topic is super simple. So I guarantee that you're gonna understand it if you make that approach to me. All right. I just want to wrap it up with showing you guys the credits over here. Here is the YouTube video where I got most of the information, like almost all of it, specifically talking about speculations, because the ones for regret I did not get from there. However, if you want to check it out, feel free. Remember, the link is also on the PowerPoint itself, so you can click on it and it's going to take you there. And yeah, I basically like the way he explained things a lot, so I'm using kind of the almost the same strategy, except for the structure though. The structure is kind of like my own, but the other explanation of what you expressed is 100% from there. He nailed it. I think it was awesome. All right, so I'm just rambling on now. Thank you for paying attention, guys. I will see you later. Take care, have fun, practice, and I'm sure you're gonna do awesome in the next evaluation. Right? So, peace.